Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller-Grodner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller-Grodner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Monroe County's plans for a new jail hit a roadblock last week when the county council voted down funding to buy land. They blame the financial uncertainties due to a tax law passed by the Indiana legislature.
We have to take the current situation that we have now, the current funding that we have now, and make plans based on that.
SNAP recipients still haven't received their benefits for November because of the government shutdown.
I just don't understand how they think people are going to make it. My whole check goes to nothing but bills.
A judge this week ordered the White House to restore some of the funding. And we look back at the life of longtime Bloomington political activist Charlotte Zietlow. We'll have these stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk.
Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. As the government shutdown continues into a sixth week, some of the most immediate effects are furloughs and a lapse in funding for SNAP benefits. As Benta Boutier reports, the White House agreed to partially fund the food aid program this week, but it still leaves recipients waiting until that money gets distributed.
The Indiana Family and Social Services Administration received guidance from the U.S. Department of Agriculture on SNAP allotments Tuesday. It expects to have new payment calculations for Indiana's recipients next week. But it means people like Shannon Treherne in Monroe County will lean on community resources in the meantime. Without SNAP, Pantry 279 is his most consistent source of food.
I just don't understand how they think people are going to make it. My whole check goes to nothing but bills.
Treherne used to work 12-hour shifts at Cook Medical before he was diagnosed with cancer in 2023. That's when he applied for SNAP. Recently, his application for disability was approved.
And then I had to start coming here because they cut them back, and then last month I found out that we wasn't going to get any this month.
Since his diagnosis, Treherne can't be on his feet for long. He volunteers most days at Pantry 279.
When the food stamps went away, it kind of scared me. You know, at first I didn't know what I was going to do because I can't go back to work. I can't last long enough. I'm lucky to be able to do it here because it's just 3 hours and I'm sitting.
It's still uncertain when exactly funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Contingency Fund will get to recipients. Normally, it would have been available 2 days ago. For organizations and leaders fighting hunger, the lapse in SNAP funding is the latest pressure on a system already struggling. Cindy Chavez of Pantry 279 says monthly attendance hit 11,000 in July and started to climb again in the last few weeks.
End of the month you run out of SNAP, and that's when you go to the food pantries. And normally at the beginning of the month we get a break because they just got their SNAP. Obviously with SNAP not being here, there will be no break. Yesterday was our highest Tuesday we have ever had. We typically put through about 400 to 500 people on a Tuesday. Yesterday was almost 900 people.
She says a lot of these were government workers. Some people drove more than an hour because their own town doesn't have a food pantry, or it was out by the time they got there.
Most of these people have jobs, some of them 1 to 3 jobs. And They buy regular food with their money, but then supplement with SNAP. Now there's no supplementation, so they're here at the food pantries.
In September, the average issuance per SNAP recipient in Indiana was $195 for the month. With what the White House agreed to pay, people are more likely to receive less than half of their normal amount. People have less money to spend on food, and in counties with higher reliance on SNAP, people will feel the effects.
It's still going to impact our store. We're still going to lose sales if it's not funded 100%. We depend on those just like the customers depend on them to buy groceries. Every little bit helps, and we're in the penny business here at Babs. Every little penny matters to us.
Freeman manages Babs Supermarket in Spencer, Indiana, population 2,300. In Owen County, where Spencer is located, about 1,900 people receive SNAP.
We do a lot of business with the SNAP benefits and EBT. The SNAP benefits account for about 6% of our sales here at Babs and about 12% of the sales at Save-A-Lot.
With holidays coming soon, Treehorn doesn't see an end to demand at food banks and pantries. The Hoosier Hills Food Bank, which serves pantries in South Central Indiana, received $46,000 from the city of Bloomington, and the Community Foundation bought 10 additional truckloads to cover the drop in SNAP. Treehorn hopes the government shutdown will end soon.
We're the ones paying them to be up there to decide all this stuff. And I think it's just sad that they can't do more for us.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Bente Boutier.
A little more than 4,100 households in Monroe County receive SNAP benefits. The average household receives $367 per month. For almost 17 years, Monroe County government has been tasked with building a new jail. Now that project is on hold. And as Ethan Sandwise reports, since the State House changed how local government can raise money, the county sees no clear path forward.
The county is bound by a court order to provide better conditions for prisoners. An ACLU lawsuit in 2009 found that overcrowding and poor facilities in the old jail were unconstitutional. County Council was supposed to vote last week on buying a site for a new jail north of Bloomington, fulfilling a purchase agreement that it had already approved. But at the end of the 7-hour meeting, councilors unanimously voted no. They said the $225 million project was no longer feasible.
We need to figure out where we're going because Indiana's Senate Enrolled Act 1 has completely changed the landscape.
That's a law passed earlier this year, limiting how much income tax county governments can spend on capital projects, such as jails. It also limits how much they can pledge toward bonds, which Monroe County planned to sell to finance the project. Rather than move forward hoping the law will change, Iverson and his colleagues decided to play it safe.
We all agreed that we cannot be making fiscal policy on hopes that Indianapolis is going to do something. We have to take the current situation that we have now, the current funding that we have now, and make plans based on that.
County Council controls the purse strings, but the Board of Commissioners manages county buildings. They've worked for years to reach compromises on the jail among the city of Bloomington, special interest groups, and both political parties. Commissioner Julie Thomas was hopeful the State House could be persuaded to change new tax laws and is frustrated by the council's decision to pull back.
I don't know how those members of the legislature who were at least receptive to our plight will view this decision by the council.
Now that already slow progress has ground to a halt, the county might have to contend with legal ramifications. If it doesn't provide the better jail conditions required by the agreement with the ACLU, it could be compelled to in court. Iverson says he's discussed with the ACLU how the new law affects county plans and doesn't think that court action is likely. But Thomas isn't so sure.
Every year that private agreement has been extended because we have made progress. But I don't know that we can report progress.
There's plenty of opposition to the jail project on non-financial grounds. City and business leaders don't like the proposed location outside of Bloomington. Criminal justice activists don't approve of the huge increase in beds. But virtually everyone agrees that the current facility is insufficient, and if it can't be repaired, there needs to be a solution improving safety of staff and prisoners. Iverson says the council is still working on that plan.
I hope you're hearing, and what the people of Monroe County are hearing, is that we're working collaboratively on these problems. We hit a road bump caused by the Indiana legislature, but we're not stopping.
Thomas says she hopes all the work already done on the project won't be tossed at this critical junction.
I don't think anybody on the Board of Commissioners has the appetite to start at step one and go through every single step all over again.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
Under the current jail plan, the new facility would be the biggest public project ever approved by Monroe County government. Well, we're joined now by Shelby Brown for more headlines from around the state. Hi, Shelby.
Thanks, Joe. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita is suing Indianapolis Public Schools, alleging its policies on immigration enforcement violate the state's anti-sanctuary law. He says IPS is refusing to let federal immigration officers into schools without a judge's warrant and stopping staff from sharing information about students' immigration status.
You know, we warned IPS to stop these sanctuary policies or face the consequences in court. They didn't listen.
The IPS board described the lawsuit as a superficial effort for political gain. IPS has said its policies follow federal privacy law and protect students and families regardless of immigration status. The Indiana General Assembly will convene December 1st to address redrawing the state's U.S. House districts. It comes after months of pressure from the Trump administration to try to gain seats nationwide in next year's midterm elections. The GOP hopes to eliminate Indiana's 2 Democrat-held seats with the new maps.
This is not something that Hoosiers have asked for. We do not need it, we do not want it, and I do not believe that we would be having this discussion if it weren't for the pressure being put on our politicians by Donald Trump.
Republicans currently hold 7 of the state's 9 U.S. House seats. Indiana last redrew its maps in 2021 following the release of the 2020 census. And Monroe County is facing a murky economic future, according to the Indiana Business Research Center. It says Monroe and the 11 counties southern Indiana Uplands region fared much worse than the rest of the state in 2025. The IBRC blames cuts at Indiana University, a major employer in the region, for the downturn. But they say the private sector is doing much better.
So God bless the Main Street businesses here in the metropolitan area. You are helping to cushion what is tough times in higher ed.
Indiana, on a whole, had a good year, but the IBRC doesn't expect that to last, projecting a growth in the economy of just 1% next year. And the state is moving forward with its plans to place electric vehicle chargers along Indiana's interstates. The Indiana Department of Transportation paused the federally funded program in February while awaiting new guidance from the Trump administration. The new guidance no longer requires chargers to be placed every 50 miles and within 1 mile of an interchange or major corridor, but that could help chargers get installed quicker.
I think overall improved flexibility is a benefit. You know, our goal is still to maximize coverage, reliability and accessibility to EV charging across the state.
The new regulations no longer require the state to engage with minority and women-owned businesses or make sure chargers benefit disadvantaged communities. And the Monroe County and Bloomington Visitor Center is looking to move downtown from North Walnut Street. As Joven reports, the proposed location is just north of the convention center, expansion in retail space at 4th Street parking garage along Walnut Street.
Visit Bloomington Executive Director Mike McAfee says the move will help market and sell the convention center.
we want to be down there in that heart of where it's all happening so we can be engaging face-to-face with visitors more.
He says the current space doesn't get as much traffic as it did when it was a core entryway to downtown. Offices would remain at the North Walnut location until space opens next to the new visitor center.
We're going to be able to build an interactive visitor center. It's going to have displays on culinary and the arts and business travel and limestone and Monroe County history and Indiana University.
Total design and build cost could reach up to $600,000. It would come from the innkeeper's tax by approval of the Visitors Commission and County Council. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Joe Wren.
McAfee says they expect it will take 5 months to complete the project. And a popular art piece will stay in downtown Columbus thanks to a $50,000 grant. Interoculus is a 40-foot tall illuminated dome over the intersection of 4th and Walnut Streets. It was designed for the 2023 Exhibit Columbus exhibition by Practice for Architecture and Urbanism. And Joe, the funds will be used for ongoing maintenance costs in some nighttime programming.
Yeah, I'm glad they're keeping it around. All the Exhibit Columbus pieces are really worth checking out. Thanks so much, Shelby. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk.
Longtime Bloomington political activist Charlotte Zietlow died this week at 91. We look back at her 6 decades of service. And the IU Symphony Orchestra will be performing during a showing of one of cinema's all-time classics this weekend.
These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
To me, it's about trust and trustworthy news. For WFIU and local TV, the local piece is really important. To me, it's about the local community. It's a glue that keeps the community together. It talks about things that are happening in our backyard. It's just about the community. To me, that's the biggest value. Support local storytelling by becoming a WTIU sustainer today.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
It's so nice to have you here. It's worth it.
Wheels up in 5.
Very simple, but very elegant food.
I'm trying to save your father's life.
Excited?
I can't wait.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Longtime Bloomington community leader and political activist Charlotte Zietlow died Wednesday at 91. She moved to Bloomington in 1964 and spent the next 6 decades organizing for democratic and community causes and inspiring the next generation of Bloomington politicians.
40 years ago, when I was a college student first getting involved in local politics, Charlotte was already a legend. And I learned so much from her.
In her final year, Zietlow remained engaged, an ever-present observer at city council meetings and protests for progressive causes.
Always attending the meetings, always speaking out, always being engaged, always asking people, what can we do to improve the situation?
2 years ago, Charlotte wrote a book called 1971, How We Won, about turning Bloomington from a Republican-led city into one that has been dominated by Democrats ever since. Bob Zaltzberg sat down with Charlotte then and had this story.
Charlotte Zietlow remembers when she and her husband Paul moved to Bloomington in 1964. She had been active in political organization in Ann Arbor and wanted to be involved in her new city. Someone came to her door to register her to vote.
I said, "Is there a Democratic Party in town?" She said, "Well, not much."
Things have changed. Bloomington Democrats have controlled the mayor's office for 52 years. It's been 16 years since a Republican was elected to the city council. But Republicans controlled Bloomington in 1968. That year, civil rights and the Vietnam War were issues that burned hot. The presidential primary incited Democratic emotions and propelled a bunch of individuals such as Zietlow to target upcoming local elections. Zietlow wasn't fond of Bloomington then, seeing it as a town with dismissive top-down leadership and little civic enthusiasm. She decided to run for city council after seeing council members in action at a meeting with a controversial project on the agenda.
They marched in and sat down, and they started having the ordinances read by title only, so nobody knew what was really being going on. And people were going like this. They wanted to get attention of the council members. They were ignored. The people were ignored. They were angry and fuming. And I thought, I could do better than this.
Zietlow thought there was a better way to conduct government business. She soon found out others felt the same way.
My main concern is people should be allowed to speak. That was my main concern. And so that was mine. And then it turned out there were 8 or 9 people in the community who lived in different places in town and who had come here from other places. All of us came from someplace else, and we brought with us the positive things that we remembered about where we came from.
This collection of people didn't know each other when they began thinking about running for office. This motley crew, as Zietlow calls her fellow candidates, included a minister, an employee of the University Computing Center, a 23-year-old anti-poverty activist, and a shoe salesman. 2 had witnessed human rights violations in the South. Each had specific interests, from planning and zoning to environmental issues to substandard housing. They all believed in participatory democracy.
We all really wanted people to be able to speak out and to have them. Well, participatory democracy was the slang or slogan, as people who are ruled get to participate in it. So that became our mutual goal, and brought us together. It seems so simple now.
But this is not just a simple story about newcomers throwing out the old guard. This was the first municipal election after 18-year-olds were given the right to vote. National media, including the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Tribune, and the New York Times, paid attention. What would the youth vote mean? After the election, a New York Times story suggested the student vote swept mayoral candidate Frank McCloskey and 8 Democratic council candidates into office.
What they were convinced of, many people were convinced of, the students would vote, and then they would take over the town. And then what would happen to us, poor things?
Now, with 6 decades of community involvement behind her, Zietlow says those elected in 1971 can be proud of many accomplishments. For example, in economic development, environmental protection, public transportation, social services, public safety, and public health. She says elected officials had a lot of help.
We engaged people in the community to come and help us solve our issues.
She says that's a message of her book, along with the idea you can work with people you disagree with and get things done to solve problems. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Bob Zaltzberg.
Zietlow's husband, Paul, an English literature professor at IU, died in 2015. The Jacobs School of Music and IU Symphony Orchestra are reimagining one of the most iconic films of all time. Aubrey Wright has more on the Jacobs Live at the Movies event this weekend at the IU Auditorium.
About 75 Indiana University students are patiently waiting for their cues, ready to bring an American fairy tale alive. They take a breath, and then they play that classic score. The symphony orchestra will bring The Wizard of Oz to the big screen and perform the score live at the IU Auditorium November 7th and 8th.
Of course, we play all the notes, but a lot of the notes is actually more like a sound effect or gesture that we're trying to create instead of like actual lyrical lines, so that's also something very special.
This is a unique experience for students like Ivy Kahn, and she hopes it's a gateway to classical music for the audience.
I think movies are very approachable, as you know, I bet a lot of people would feel more comfortable going into a movie theater than a classical concert hall.
And unlike The Wizard, conductor Konstantin Kitsopoulos and the orchestra will not be behind the curtain. He says the audience will watch the original 1939 movie as the orchestra plays on stage.
In this case, you're going to hear all the orchestral detail live and in person, so it's a wonderful experience.
He's conducted about 45 films with live orchestras. Following an analog clock to keep time, Kitsopoulos will direct the students.
When Judy sings, and she's not going to wait for me, so I've got to be with her.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
And the second-ranked Indiana football team will put its 9-0 record on the line Saturday when it heads to Happy Valley. Penn State started the season with national title hopes, but have lost its last 5 games. But IU head coach Curt Cignetti isn't dismissing the Nittany Lions.
Same guys they started the year with for the most part that was ranked number 1 to number 3 in the country.
Saturday's game kicks off at noon on Fox. And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grodner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.